Hi guys and girls, how you going? Thank you very much for joining me today. I've recently purchased a new camera and I'd love to run you through that, show you exactly how and why and what that's all about. And that's the Nikon Z. So it's a beautiful little Z camera, very retro styled and beautiful, and I'm just going to explain why I bought it. So let me first bring it out and show you, because that's the first fair thing I should do, shouldn't I? So here we have it here, right here. And as you can see, it's a beautiful little camera and it's very attractive. It has a lot of retro styling, buttons and knobs, and a cute little silver lens that came with it. Now when I bought this, I bought it as a kit. And the kit I bought it with had the 28mm prime lens on it, which is also retro styled, which is very nice. And I've also got the 40mm prime lens as well. So I just sort of run you through the collection of lenses that I've had with this camera and why I've got them. So I'll place these away just for now, so they're not intrusive. Now the zoom, of course, that came with this is an excellent option for everyone to buy. And the main reason I encourage people to have a look at this zoom is because, well, A, it's a wide angle lens, so it makes the vlogging aspect very easy if you want to flip the screen out and film yourself. But apart from the fact that it's wide angle, it has VR in it as well. So with the VR, of course, that just softens all your vibration and bouncing around, which when you're holding it up in one arm, for example, it's very easy to get a bit of a wobble going. So any sort of a vibration reduction is definitely going to be an advantage, and a wide angle, of course, is very nice. Now this doesn't only have wide angle, it's 16 to 70 mils, or so I should say it's 16 to 50, which equates from a full frame perspective to 24 to 75 mils equivalent. And of course that's a great range. 24 to 70 is a great range. You've got the extra 5 as well, that's handy. You've got VR in there as well. So it's an awesome option of a lens. I think if you get this camera, you really must get this lens with it as a versatile option, particularly for things like holiday snaps. If you're traveling around, to have a versatility of range on one lens stops you having to quickly change lenses continually. You know, that's very frustrating when you're in a hurry and you're trying to enjoy your activities. So having that zoom with you, I think that's a great option. I really love it, and I like the look of it too. Now I've got photo samples I can show you to prove that the lens works really, really well, and it's a beautiful performer. The camera itself, though, if we get back to the camera itself, it is a 20 megapixel camera. And 20 megapixels is not huge, but it's more than what I need for what I purchased it for. And it's a little bit context, isn't it? Now I'm filming right now on the Nikon Z7 II, and that one has over 45 megapixels. So obviously if I want a really high performance camera, if I want that resolution and detail, I'm always going to reach for the Z7 II, aren't I? And it's a great performer in many ways, but particularly with the photo resolution. So if I need lots of megapixels, I'll go to the Z7 II, which I own. But for this camera here, it's a completely different ballpark and function. So I've actually got this for my own reasons, is mostly for video. So if I want photos, I'll use the Z7, won't I? But for photos, it is a good performer. For video, it's really excellent. Now most of my videos are done at 4K and at around 24 to 30 frames per second. And that's the range and this camera performs at. So it is not a high-end video camera as far as it doesn't do 60 or 120 frames per second in 4K. And it certainly doesn't do 8K because it hasn't got enough megapixels to do that. So there'll never be an upgrade it'll get. But what it might do is it may get some upgrade in the future, but even if it doesn't, it performs so well, who cares? See, I've done the video test samples with this camera and at my back veranda, and I spent a few minutes doing that and got some beautiful footage with all the 3 different lenses to prove that the autofocus is incredibly sticky on the eye. If you've got eye detect on, human eye detect or even animal eye detect, which it has, and you get that on the eye, you can see it registering, you move around anywhere you like, it will follow you. You get up, you get down, you spin around, you jump about, it sticks on like glue. And that's something that I was struggling with the Z7 II, and I used to complain quite a lot. We were still waiting on that firmware upgrade. And oh, by the way, happy anniversary. It's been 1 year we've been waiting for that firmware 2.0. We still haven't got it. Anyway, we'll get a present one day, maybe next year. But regardless of that, this thing actually does perform really well, and I don't really care about the upgrade now because I've got a camera that I'm 100% confident in with video and its autofocus. The Z7 II was always great for photo autofocus. That was never a problem. I love the way it captures focus. But the video was a little bit hit and miss at times. This one here is 100% hit, and I've never seen it miss yet. So I'm really loving it for video. So if you're considering getting something where you do more videos than you do photos, this is the ideal camera to get because it is very video orientated and very excellent at performing that. And of course, the other attraction with this camera is the flip-out screen. That's the notorious, deal-breaking seller, isn't it? That you've actually got a screen where you can see yourself. So, when it comes to vlogging, obviously, that's fantastic. You get to make good composition. The screen is actually quite small. It's not a very large screen. It's only about 3 inches. And what I'm filming with right now, I'm using a 7-inch aperture monitor, and I can see everything and all the details and the sound waves and everything. A fantastic resolution, that big monitor I have. But the point is, though, this is handy and convenient with you everywhere. It's not an accessory you have to put on. It's just with the camera the whole time. So you can have it like this. You can have it in various angles. If you're doing low down photography, you can have it up the other way around. If you want to get up really, really high over a crowd and get some footage down, you've got that option as well. So having the option that you can, of course, maneuver that screen around in various different angles to take photos wherever you want, it's a terrific option. And of course, there is always the default position where you can have it where it's facing you, and you can just see what you're doing as you're looking at the back of the camera. That's an option. You've got two, of course. And it was very convenient. I did find that very nice, that they give you the option of being able to fold it around so that that hard plastic case is actually facing the back of the camera there, and you can't scratch or damage the screen. So that's actually a pretty clever idea, that. And it gives it, of course, that retro styling again, more authentically. So yeah, am I liking this camera? Yeah, I love it a lot. And I got it for my wife, who's quite frail, really. I mean, when I say frail, she's not weak. I'm saying she's just thin. She's a skinny girl, and she's got tiny little hands, and a camera of this sort of size and weight is fantastic for her to travel around with. If she wants to put it into a bag, a little camera bag even, or a purse, you can sort of fit this pretty much anywhere, because it is quite tiny. And so that makes it very portable and convenient. So having that as an option is great. The lens, of course, is very tiny and small, which is awesome. All the other lenses I have with it, and I've got these other two here. I've got a 28mm retro styled prime, and then I've got a 40mm retro styled prime. And of course, equivalently, and that's what we've got to look at here, full frame equivalent, so get it in our head what we're talking about in focal range. 28 is about a 42mm lens on a full frame camera. That's the look. So it's a good street photography lens, excellent for some landscapes and scenery shots. The 40mm here is an f2, and that would be the equivalent of 60mm on a full frame lens. So you see, you've got really here with the 16 to 50 that came with it as a kit, you've got 24 to 75mm equivalent. You've now got a 28mm 2.8 prime, nice and bright and very light, and then you've got a 40mm nice, well, you can do that for portraits. It'd be 60mm at f2 is great for portraits. So that could be a portrait lens. This is your wider angle lens for your street photography and random snaps. And then, of course, you have the zoom, which you can use pretty much anywhere for any occasion. So it's great to have some variety, and the fact that they are all very small and compact and lightweight means that the wife has no trouble using any or all of them. Now, my wife's a great second shooter for me. If we do weddings or festivals and events, she'll like to come along and help out with the photos, and she is college trained. She's a very good photographer, so it's great to have something for her that's nice and light and compact and easy for her to carry around. So it's not obtrusive, it's pretty. Girls like pretty things, and this is all shiny and pretty, like jewelry, I suppose. But for me, I really respect also the ticking of the boxes to the old retro styling of the past with the Nikon film cameras, and she appreciates that as well. So it's good for everybody. It's great for me when I do video. It's terrific for her for video and photos anywhere she goes. And really, I think we'll all be fighting each other for this camera whenever we can. So I'm going to predominantly be using it for video. I'll be doing all my YouTube videos now on this camera rather than my Z7 II. I'll be able to have that in my hand now and demonstrate everything I need to do on a full frame camera, should that be useful or helpful in any way. But this will be doing all the filming because it's quick to set up. With the flippy screen, I can get composition quickly. I don't have to fluff around with putting a big monitor on to see what's going on. And it actually, the autofocus is so sticky, it's actually incredible. I've never seen autofocus like this before. It's I can't say it's Z9 standard because I never had a Z9, but I know that it's extremely good and I'm very pleased with it. So I don't feel like in any way I'm being compromised by using it. And I have some video footage from my garage, which I'd like to show you. It's actually my back veranda, sorry, I should say. And yeah, I'll do some jumping up and down and roaming around with that. And I'll use each one of these three lenses and demonstrate that it does work, and it works extremely well. So you look forward to seeing that. It goes for about 8 minutes, the videos. that'll continue on a little later on. I'll play that, and please stick with it and watch it, because it's a great education to learn just how well this operates in video situation. So it's quite capable, of course, photography-wise. It's a great camera. You've got a viewfinder, which is really important, which is why I didn't go for the Z30 that's coming out later. I love the idea of having a proper viewfinder, and I find that really good for me to get focusing with photos and get that focus point exactly where I want it. You can do things on the back of the screen here. Touch screen is fully actuated and very efficient, but I do love those viewfinders. So yeah, this is a great camera, and I'm really loving what it's all about. And I just want to run you through that and how pleased I am with it. So I'm giving it really thumbs up. So I'll tell you what we do. Before I go on any further about details with this camera and its accessories, let's just have a look at some of that video footage so you can confirm with me that it is brilliant for tracking video. Hey everybody, how you going? It's Mark. Of course, we're outside my back veranda, and right now I'm going to do a test run of the Z FC's autofocus capability. Now I've got it on the 4K recording. It's on 2.8, f2.8 with a 28mm primes lens. Now I'm using this just to give it a good sample to see how it works. It's probably the most common lens I'll be using for my videos. I can use this one in my room when I'm doing videos there, and it's a nice wider angle to do outside as well. Not a super wide angle, because on this crop sensor camera the 28mm full frame lens is about a 42mm focal range, but that's perfect for video for me. It's about within the ballpark of most of what I do. So I'm going to give it a sample run. I've got my Nikon Z7 II recording the screen, so hopefully it'll come out decently enough. So you're seeing the actual footage from the ZFC, and then what you'll also see is I'll snippet the screen on the back, and you'll see if the follow focus is finding my eye and keeping me nice and sharp. So 2.8, when I come close to the camera, it's a reasonably shallow depth of field, and as I walk around it's bright enough to see me and what I'm doing. I'm also using a big video light here to give me some illumination, so that should make me pop and make focus a little bit easier for it. But I believe it actually does an excellent job of the autofocus, so I'm 100% confident. So what I'm going to do now is just walk around. I have the little lav mic here on my chest, so you can hear me speak as I move around, and I'll just do a lot of movements and a bit of up and down bobbing and so on, just to see if it can find me and follow me. So let's get it underway now, shall we? Now I'm just going down low and coming back high and forward. Going back, hopefully it's focusing now on the lights at the back almost. To the side. I'm going to turn around so it's losing my eyes, then come around again. Did it find me? Is it still following me? Again, come down. Lose focus on the face. Let's see if it's found my eye straight away. This is going to be a very comprehensive test. It's a very brief one, but it either works or it doesn't. That's the thing about these lenses and the operating systems in the camera. They either work or they don't work. So we've got a good situation here. I'm generally in the shade, but I have light illuminating me front on, so that's pretty good. There's a little ring light above my head. As I get right in the center area here, you'll see maybe a bit of illumination around my hairline, and that's the ring light just above me. Other than that, there are light panels. We've got these like translucent light panels in the ceiling here in the back veranda, and that does let a soft glow of the sunlight through. So I'm just hoping the exposure remains consistent, because we got semi-cloudy days. We get clouds come over the sun, and sometimes my exposure will change dramatically. I have a filter over the lens now. I have a circular polarizer just to help cut down a little bit of the glare. I hope it doesn't interfere with the focusing too much. So we're almost done with the focusing tests. And how are we going? Is it working? I'm confident it is. It works very well in the room. I've tried it out multiple times. So I just thought I'd run you through it. And what I'll do is I'll swap on now the 40mm lens as well onto the ZFC, and we'll see if that operates just as well. So hey guys, here we are again. Now we're using the 40mm f2 lens, and that's a prime as well, and it also has the ND filter. Now we're shooting, even though it's a f2.0 lens, we're going to be shooting it at f2.8, And the reason being is the f2 I found to be a little bit soft. Not so bad for video, more for detailed photos. Video's only about an equivalent of around 10 megapixel image anyway at best, so that way really not going to matter if it was a bit soft. But I'm looking here more about the fact that the lens actually performs well with the camera. So it's silent and it does actually acquire the focus, and the autofocus motors work well. So that's what we're going to run the test with this 40mm lens, little pancake lens. We'll see how it performs. Now understand that on 40mm on the ZFC crop sensor camera, it's equivalent to about 60mm on a full frame. So I'm going to have to get back a little further, which I am now standing for my close-up, and then I can walk back to the fence now, and we'll try out how the focus is following me and if it's still catching me. I have a smaller range, of course, of motion here because it's a tighter end shot, so I can't go too far away, but I'll try and get in and out the frame just a little bit. Here we go. We're right out of the frame, and popping up. There's it finding my eyes. I believe it should. Come down and up, come down again, see if it's consistent. So remember, this is the 40mm set at f2.8 in a well-lit environment but in a shady veranda. Notice I'm barely standing still at any pace, so it's got to continually follow. I'm not running or jerking up and down too much, but it's just enough to see if it does actually move along with me and if the box is continually finding my eye. So I'm just going to stop it there. That's sufficient a bit of a test. I'll do a little one on the little zoom lens as well, the was it 16 to 50mm, and we'll see how that performs as well. So hi guys, we're starting off again now with the little pancake zoom lens, the kit lens, if you want to call it that. It's a great little lens. I find it very sharp and very versatile. It's got that range, it says 16 to 50, but equivalently it's very similar to a full frame camera at a 24 to 75mm. So that's a very versatile range, like a holiday lens for going out on vacation. So I really like the idea of it. Now right now I'm shooting it in its sort of mid-range at 35mm, and that's sort of very similar to the 40 I just had on recently, just a little bit wider. So I'm going to try that. It has no filter on it, this one, because it's a little bit darker. It will be filming at f5.3, and that's simply because that's its minimum aperture at that focal range for this lens. So we'll go and see how that performs, hey? I would imagine that the image wouldn't be that much darker because, of course, now I'm not using a filter on it, so that, of course, would have cut down light. So without the filter, it should be reasonably equivalent, or at least easily correctable in post. Just a minor bit darker. So let's just see if it's following me exactly the same well as all the others are. Come out of the scene, then pop up again, come down again, pop up, turn around, come back. See if it's finding that eye pretty quick. So if all the lenses are performing as well as I expect them to, then that's a real pleasure and joy, because 90% of the time I'm using this camera, not so much for photos, but more in fact for video. Because I've got the Z7 II and I've got 45 megapixels and all those full frame lenses, all the S-line lenses, I'm obviously going to use that mostly for photos when I want high resolution. So this camera used for photos, the ZFC, is more of like a holiday snaps or a backup second camera, second shooter if you like. Now that's no put down to the camera. The camera is more than capable. But of course, if you've got 45 megapixels for a photo, you probably want to go with that most of the time as a first choice. So there we go. We should have had a good estimation of what's going on. So that one again, of course, was the little pancake lens, the kit one. It's the 16 to 50, and it was set at 35mm at f5.3. You can see most of those details, of course, with the other footage on the Nikon Z7 II that I'm filming the screen with. I just hope it's sharp enough to read. So thank you for your time. I hope that was educational in some way. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I thought that was very interesting and educational. I hope you felt the same. So back to the camera here, the little FC, and we're talking about video, weren't we? And I wanted to show you something because I found this quite fascinating. You know, I'm into Speedlights. Anybody who knows me knows I have a lot of Speedlights. Here's a few I'm just going to put up here. If I put this to the side, then bring them closer to me, you'll be able to see what's going on a little better. Because obviously the focusing is on my eye here with this camera, and they need to be close to my eyes to get them in focus. So here we are, we've got these three little flashes, and aren't they cute? Now we've got here a SB900. That's the biggest ones that they produce at the moment. We have a SB700 here, medium size flash, and this is the one I've just purchased for this camera now. This is the SB500. So it's been out for a few years, but it's an excellent option for this particular camera, and I'll go through exactly why. This camera, this Speedlight here, for example, is brilliant, super powerful and very professional and efficient. But you put this on this camera here and it just dwarfs the camera. It's just way too big physically for the camera. Will it work on it? Yes. Is it the appropriate sizing? No. So I didn't choose that one for this camera, I choose that for the Z7 II. The SB700 is a good all-round versatile sort of Speedlight. That's a great option too, but it was still a bit chunky and a bit big, I felt, for this camera, so I'll still stick to that with full frame gear and use. And this little one here, the little SB500 here, is a brilliant, perfect match for this camera in my opinion. Not because it's retro styled, which it isn't. It's a modern styling. And I have put a little bit of foam rubber just around the end here, which I'll explain a little why. So that actually isn't standard, but that's important for me. So when I put this here on the camera, I'll just turn that on and get it on. You can see how physical form factor wise, it's actually really, really cool. Yeah, it's just about the right size and shape and dimensions. Yes, it's fully functional. You can bounce it off walls, you can spin it around any angle you like, so it is a fully functional flash, but it's just a petite one, a little tiny one that suits the size of this camera. It's very lightweight too, which is really a big deal to have it lightweight. These other Speedlights are very heavy. They take 4 batteries, so if you've got 4 AA batteries in, there's a little bit of extra weight there. With this one here, and I'll just show you there quickly, it's only got 2 little batteries in it, hasn't it? So you've got 2 little batteries, of course that's obviously less weight and very compact and cheaper to use too. So it's a great system. Now you might say, okay, that's all very well, but why have the other one's got a little red banner here and this one's got a white banner? What's going on with that? Well, this is actually a really cool feature, and we're talking about doing vlogging and things like that. These are actually LED lights. So I'll just illustrate that by turning that on, that feature, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, isn't that the coolest thing you've ever seen? Isn't that just amazing? Look at that. You've got your own portable lighting system with you everywhere you go. So if you're doing vlogging, you've got 3 settings on this for power. That's actually the medium setting. There's a 1, 2 and 3, and you can just adjust it. That's the strongest one there. That is, oh, blinding. That is really super strong. You'd only use that if you were filming something quite a long way away, a couple of meters away. But if you're doing vlogging, you could set it down to the 1 setting, which is the softer setting, and that actually works very well just to take the shadows and illuminate up your face when you're doing your vlogging. So isn't that just a great little idea to have that with you, so portable? You don't have to bring 2 lights with you. You've got a light with you, both this flash and you've got a little LED light panel. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I just wanted to show you through that. And yes, it does flash and it does work really well. So if we just there we are. And we turn it on. And what if I got it on video instead of photo or something? Here we go. There we go. Got it flashing. So there you go. So I'm looking at everything with the light in my eyes. I can't even read the dials or see anything. But there you go. It's fully functional. It's a great little unit. And I just wanted to bring you through that one because, you know, accessories are everything. If you haven't got the right accessories for the camera, everything feels a bit awkward and out there and wobbly. So having the right size flash, which this one is, I'll leave this one out here just to show you with my accessories, and it'll keep it in your mind that it's the SB500. And what a beautiful, cute little flash that is. I actually purchased that one second hand on eBay. I got it for about $250 Australian. I thought that was a real bargain because Speedlight's new, but about double that price brand new. So search around. It's been out for a few years. You've got every good chance of finding it online and getting a bargain. This is in almost pristine condition too. And you see it's fully functional. So have a shop around, but if you're going to get a Speedlight for your unit here, I wouldn't recommend those retro style ones. There are some cute little retro style ones from Godox, etc., but they're very horizontal and low down to the camera, and it's not a flattering angle. And they don't have a lot of flexibility and versatility. But these one it has all the features really of a professional Speedlight, but it's just in a tiny little package. So that's awesome for the FC, or even your Z50, I suppose. So anyway, I highly recommend that Speedlight. It's a Nikon quality product. I love all my Nikon Speedlights. I have about 8 Speedlights. This is the latest edition, and it's just as awesome as all the other ones. And that LED light panels within it already, how great is that? Now, while we're talking about LED light panels, there are other options. You can use something like this. This is an aperture Amaran, and that'll take either 6 AA batteries or a Sony NP battery, one of these sort of things. That's a bit heavy, that battery. I'd recommend if you're going to use it for a light on a camera, get the smallest version of those batteries you can. So, what I'll do is I'll use the modest size one. I've got 3 sizes here. If I use the modest size one, I plug that in here. You can see how this light works. It works perfectly and it's very good. The other thing I like about this light that I find very, very attractive is that you've got bi-color. So you can see here, I think, just trying to work out if I can show you and you can see it. Oh, it's got to be up a bit stronger, does it? Okay, here we go. Yeah, so there we go. You can see the bi-color factor. See how it's gone a bit yellow now? And then change it over, it goes much brighter, whiter. And then back down to the amber, which is excellent when you want to do your video and you want to get the right skin tones and colors so that it's actually flattering on your skin. So you make the adjustment to how you think that should be and it looks best for you. And of course, simple little mount it on your camera. Here you go. Adjust it, right height. And there you go, you vlog with your vlogging stick and there you go. You can get yourself video and well illuminated at the same time. And it's not unbearable to hold up because the actual LED lights weigh next to nothing. They're only plastic bubbles really, these boxes. The batteries are what's going to weigh, so you just get the smallest battery you can. So that's why I was recommending these small 550s because they're very lightweight and they last long enough for a 15-minute vlog session. So I just put this one down, but there is another one I'd like to show you, and it all operates very similarly. This is this little tiny one here. It's an Andor CM200D. That's the model number. And it's not important which one you buy, but I just liked it because it's an LED light that's already diffused and circular. So having something circular and diffused for your video means it's very flattering on the face. It's almost like a softbox, isn't it? A little tiny mini little softbox. And when we're talking in the consistency here or context of vlogging, for example, I'll just get this one up operational. Here we go. And so you can see it up and running and works. And you see that beautiful little light you're going to get there? You see? And if you wanted to vlog on yourself, it has the rating on the back there of what strength it is. For the purpose of this illustration, I'm going to run it right down to about 10 out of 100. It is actually quite powerful. You'd be surprised how much power comes out of these cheap little lights. Now, this is a very lightweight unit. And the excellent part about that is, again, when you're vlogging, this is super light. And it can give you a nice light now, illumination on your face with whatever strength you need to get the light that you want. Now, how strong does it actually go? Well, I'll turn it up right now to 100%. Actually takes a little bit of time to do that. And there you go. Now it's just like blinding me. It's so super strong. But you turn it down to the strength you need it, and a great thing for vlogging. Highly recommended, that's my point. I like to have the right equipment for what you're needing to do. You have a little pencil sort of spot of light, little specular light going on in your face. It looks pretty terrible. Really, this isn't the most flattering light. It was just that it was convenient. But this sort of thing here where you've got a broad surface area and it's a bit higher off the camera, excellent. Make yourself look beautiful when you do your vlogs. So just getting back to the camera here, I was just going to talk to you through the lenses and what I really like about the aspects there and how complementary they are to the camera. Now, apart from the actual look of the lenses, which look terrific, it's really nice to have them like styled like the camera. This one here, sort of silver with the silver, is very attractive. And of course, this camera does come in multiple colors. So you can get, coral pinks and pale green, mint greens and all sorts of colors. I went with the black just because that's traditionally the retro color I'm familiar with. And as a bloke, black's got nice and neutral. So that's it's a good one. The other thing I like is this other lens here, and I'll just run you through that one here. This is actually particularly a favourite of mine, and that's the 28mm f2.8. As you can see, I actually have a circular polarizer filter on it because a lot of my primes, because they're a lot brighter than a zoom lens usually, I like to have them filtered down a bit to stop the glare. So I can take that off at a second's notice, but it does add a layer of protection to the lens as well as the fact that I can, in a glance or a very quick moment, start adjusting the brightness. So removing any glare and flare is very nice. Now with this lens here, what do I like about this? The styling is beautiful. Again, black with silver matches the camera just perfectly, doesn't it? Certainly a very good look. And apart from that, the 28mm focal length is excellent, because 28 equal that with a full frame lens equivalent, it's about a 42mm, and 42mm is fantastic for what I'm doing right now, and that is videoing in my room. So at the moment that camera is set on 50mm, so to utilize this one at say equivalently 42, all I do is bring it in about a foot closer, and that's not going to cause me any issues at all. So that'll be an excellent, probably every time I do a video I'll be using this for recording myself on YouTube videos. This will probably be the last time I'll be using the Z7 II to record these YouTube channel videos. So it's a handsome looking little lens, very compact again, and it fits well away in camera bags. Now, while we're talking about things like camera bags, I really want to bring out some detail to you, and that is, I have two little camera bags here that I have for this camera. So there's one, and there's two. Now, why have I got two? Well, I tell you what, they're very useful to have two camera bags for various different reasons. Now, you may notice they're both the Low Pro brand. That's actually not particularly important. I have a few of their bags. I just find them very good, and they're easily to purchase. I get them either online or at Ted's Cameras, where I buy a lot of my equipment. So why have they got these two camera bags? Well, I have this one here, which is a tiny little compact camera bag, and that is for when we're trying to be tiny and compact. So let's say all we want to do is bring that camera and that lens, and that's all we want. Well, it fits in there very compactly, and that is a tiny little package to have with you wherever you go. It's still got little compartments in there, little zip pockets, for example, where you can put things away. So if you want to add a little filter, or you want to add a memory card or an extra battery or so on, that's highly recommended. So yeah, these compact little bags I think are fantastic. It even has room for a little SD card spare if you wish it to. Personally, I'm not needing any spare memory cards. I do have them, of course, but the thing is I purchased the right sort of card for this camera. So I'll get back to that in just a moment. So that's my little camera bag, which I think is awesome. What model number was that again? Sorry, oh, it doesn't say, but all right. We'll get back to that later. I'll put it on the screen. Then I have this slightly bigger one. It'd be about double the size. Now, what's the point of this one? Well, this enables me here to have the camera in one half of it. So you can see it in here. The camera fits very, very snugly in here and safe, well padded. And then what I can do, of course, is I can take a few of these lenses with me. If I just make all these safe so I don't damage or scratch anything. The lens hood cap's on. If I can find the right lens cap. There we go. Yep, I can put a couple of lenses in, take my flash, little flash, compact flash, place that in the bag as well, and check out this. You're probably wondering why I had that foam rubber around the outside of the Speedlight. Well, that was actually just to increase volume and give a little bit of grip. Now, why is that? Because I use these little diffusers. This is a Celine's product, little silicone bubble-like diffuser. And if I put this little strap over the top of my Speedlight there, the SB500, that little bit of foam rubber I put on to fill up the volume and give it a bit of grip just means that this doesn't come off very easily now. And it's magnetic, you see. You see the little magnets either side there? There are magnets in here. And all you do is you just stick it on. There it is with magnets. And now you have a diffusion. When you take a Speedlight photo, you've got a nice softer light. This will bounce around a room inside a house, or it'll just project the diffused light now onto the subject and making it as, well, as practical as you can on the go. So we're not talking about studio lighting here. We're not talking about doing professional portraits. What we're doing here is you're just taking photos of yourself and your friends, maybe at a party or an occasion, and it just makes it a little bit more flattering, the photos. So what happens with this? Well, if I'm not using it, that just folds up in the bag. So there's the Speedlight going in there. That can go in the bag as well, and when I zip all that up, I've got a great package where I've got everything I could possibly want with me. And so isn't that fantastic? And it's still a modest little bag. It's only a small little unit, and it has everything I need in that. So anyway, I just wanted to run you through that and show you. The other thing I am going to recommend you do if you get a camera bag at all for this, and do get a modest size one, you don't need a big bag for these equipment. It's a small camera, small gear, so what do you need a big bag for? It just makes everything cumbersome and heavy. So I'll pop these out because I'll probably need to show you through them a little later. Don't want to bury them in the bag. So I'll put them down there, but I wanted to show you the sort of size of the camera bag that I'd be going for myself. That's all you need to carry three lenses, the camera, a Speedlight and a diffuser and a spare battery in a bag that tiny. So how great is that? That's what we talk about. We talk about being compact and portable and on the go, and very doable for the wife to carry around all day without any stress or anxiety. It's not a burden in any way. And this one, of course, even more so, because all it does is you really just put your camera in there and a spare battery and off you go. So, getting back to the camera again. Next feature I'd like to talk to you about is some of the great photo qualities it has. And it does take great photos. Using that Speedlight, for example, I was able to get some photos of my friend here. See my little buddy here, Robot? Yeah, who remembers Lost in Space? I remember Lost in Space as a kid. I used to love that show. I have also a little lunchbox for Lost in Space as well in the other room. But Robot here is a great model for me. So I'm going to show you some photos of my taking of the different lenses and different apertures and so on, and what it looks like to compare. And my favorite set of photos was actually with this camera here, and brace yourself for this, the 50mm 1.2 on it. Now you might think that is a ridiculous combination. What are you doing putting a massive heavy full frame lens like that in that tiny little camera? Well, it can take it, It's quite a robust little camera, so it can certainly take the weight of that. But I just want you to think about the mathematics of this. This is where it gets exciting. And so I will be showing you photo samples of this beautiful young gentleman here, my favourite model. Now, why is he such a great model for photos, you might say? Well, I'll tell you why. Because he's reflectively silver, he's got multicolours, he's got a great point right in the middle of his chest to focus on, which centralises and get nice lot of detail there, different colours and the different textures. Apart from that, though, he's also very, a barrel-like in structure, which means you've got depth. So when you're trying to check out things like depth of field and how much is in focus or out, he's a fantastic model because his hands project forward, you focus on his chest and you've got depth in him as well. And when you're doing test sample photos, this guy is fantastic. So you're not going anywhere, mate. You're my best friend. Little model there for me. So as I was saying, I was putting this lens here, this big heavy chunky thing, the 50mm 1.2, and I was trying it out in comparison to the other lenses to see just how well it performed. And it performed breathtakingly well, I can tell you right now. And let's do some mathematics on that. You know how I was saying with these lenses here that, that's a 40mm lens, so that's like a 60mm equivalent on full frame. And this one here's a 28mm 2.8, so that's equivalent to like a 42mm on a full frame. Well, what is the mathematical equivalence of this one on it? It's not 50mm anymore. This one now becomes 75mm. It won't be too long, I believe, until Nikon release an 85mm f1.2. So it's pretty much this unit here. I think it's a little bit squatter and fatter, but 85mm at f1.2. That's what I believe is coming out very soon. But you can get a taste for how that lens will look by simply putting this 50mm on this crop sensor camera. Because now what you've done is the equivalent factor is 75mm 1.2, and that's damn close to 85. In fact, I would actually beg to say, and I don't think I'll get too many corrections on this, if you're doing photos at a portrait session, 75mm is actually an excellent focal range. 85 sometimes a little bit far away, particularly to do a full body shot, because you have to get back quite a way. 50 sometimes can be too close. You're almost putting the lens in someone's face to get 50mm on a full frame camera. But 75mm on a full frame camera, that's an excellent sort of focal length. You can switch quickly between headshots and full body shots without it being too much distance mucking around. So I reckon that was actually an excellent option. So if you're fortunate enough to have this lens, don't be scared to put it on your crop sensor camera and benefit from it and get a bit of extra focal reach and a lot more compression. And it's the compression that I found the most exciting, because with the 50mm you're actually getting quite a lot in the shot. So even when you're getting close, it's still quite a wide angle. When you're cutting that down now from 50 to 75, you're getting a narrower field of vision and you're getting less distracting background around the subject. So not only can the bokeh be better because it's not having to work as hard with a vast amount of area to soften up, it's only got a smaller amount and that looks a lot better. So yeah, I think that's actually a better option for portraits, using it on something like a crop sensor camera if the resolution is satisfactory for you. So, and a lot of times it is, because not too many women really want a 50 megapixel photo with a pause in their nose. It's really not very flattering. So unless you're going to have to soften it and post later on, probably the 21 megapixel camera is a lot more flattering for the young ladies. So I just sort of put that out there, that I think that's a great combination. And if you didn't want to have to buy two of these lenses, I'd be buying the 50mm 1.2 and also rotating that between your full frame and your crop sensor camera should you have that option to do so. Fortunately, I can, and I'm certainly going to give it a try. The sample photos I'm going to put up for you, or have put up, will illustrate just how great that looks and how great this camera works as a photography camera. So don't be put off by the 20.9 megapixels thinking, oh, it's just not enough resolution. It's more than enough for 90% of your application. If I need more, I'm going to use the Z7 for my landscapes and maybe my birding. But even on the subject of birding, if I put my longer lens here, I've got the 70 to 200, this suddenly becomes a 100 to 300 millimeter lens on this crop sensor camera as far as its reach goes. So that's also a really awesome option. With the 2x teleconverter I have, that means this now, instead of going to 140 to 400 on the full frame, would now goes to 250 to 600 millimeters. 600 millimeter lens, awesome. So that's some of the options you got when you got these two different types of cameras. And that's exactly why I got away from having just two Z7 IIs. It was great to have the variety of options to be able to put this lens here on this camera and it'd be equivalent of a 60mm f2. Be able to put this on my full frame camera and I got a 40mm. I got two lenses for the price of one because I get two different focal lengths. So that's something to consider, and I think that that's a great option. So something else to talk about regarding this camera with the options is in this little cupboard here. Now have a look inside here. We have a battery, and I'm going to encourage everybody to buy two batteries. The batteries are good. They last efficiently, 300 plus photos and probably an hour or so of video at least, of 4K video, but they're just tiny and they don't last that long. So if you're going to buy this camera, please buy it with two batteries. Order the two. Don't just order one battery that came with it. Make sure you order a second battery. You will need it. Believe me, it won't last all day and you'll be very disappointed getting halfway through your actions and videos and photos and run out, of course, of that power. The other option I'm going to talk to you about is memory cards. Now you might be able to see it here. I've got a little SD card here, and it's a very good range one. It's the Sony Tough version. It's a 258 megabyte chip. So I'll just place that down gently there, and I'll just show you the box, because if I show you the box you'll probably read that a bit better. I don't know if it'll actually take that up, but I'll put a photo up if it doesn't actually focus on it. Oh, I can see it focusing on it now. So that's the chip I'm using, and I think it's a really good option. Now you may say, all right, 256 gigabytes, a lot of gigabytes, but it's a video-centric camera for me, and that of course churns up a lot of space. So I thought I want to get a chip where I'm not going to run out of room. I don't need to carry 2 or 3 chips around now. One big chip's going to last me all day in video. The other feature is it has a reasonable read and write speed. So we're talking about 150 and 270 read-write speed proportionally, and that's more than enough for this camera. So, all right, is there a better version than this? Well, there is. There are actually multiple versions of cards you can use in this camera. For video, and that's actually what's the most relevant, because any SD card will work with the photos in this camera. But if you're looking for doing quite a bit of 4K video, what you want here is you look at the numbers up the top here, and on the box and on the chip itself, it will say V something. V30, V60, V90. Now V30, well, I've tried them. They actually work 100% on this camera with both photos and video. You can do 4K video for hours using a V30 card. And they're a lot less expensive. So if your budget's a big deal and you're trying to save a few money, you can get away with it and it will work. Personally, I've gone for the V60 card here, because V60 means that you're going to get your 4K video and up to potentially 60 frames a second, no problem at all. Now this camera only does 4K up to 30 maximum. So that card, the 60 card, is already overkill really for this application. But I'd rather overkill than underkill, wouldn't you? Why limit yourself and go, oh, I might just get away with it. Just buy the extra better card and it'll last longer. But I will recommend this. Don't waste your money on a 90. A V90 card, which is again another hundreds of dollars more expensive, is a waste of money. Because that's really for things like 8K video or for 4K at 120 frames per second, which this camera can never do. So you're just throwing money away buying a V90. You just don't need it for this camera. For something like equivalent to a Z7 or something, yeah, sure, it might be useful. And I actually have that in there. I have a Sony V90 300 write speed card as my backup card in my Z7 II for photo backup. And that's the only reason I have that is not that photos need that speed, but it just helps me not slow down the camera, because the slowest card is the pace the camera will perform at. So if I had a really slow backup card for my JPEGs, then what would happen is it could retard and slow down the big files of my RAW files, for example, and high shutter speeds. So I thought, well, I'll definitely get a good card for the Z7 II to make sure I don't hamper the options in that camera, because it does do 4K at 60. But this one, no. The V60 card, the mid-range card, is all you'll ever need, and it's fantastic. Just buy as many gigabytes as you can, because it saves you fiddling around with multiple cards. And look, the other thing is I did buy the tough version, the Sony tough cards. That's not because only Sony cards are any good or the tough ones perform any better per se. But the reason I've got those is because they're tough. And the reason I need a tough card in this particular camera, where I may not have in the Z7 II, and that's an interesting feature I want to talk to you about, is when you're putting the cards in and out, and you're putting them in this latch, you have to actually put the cards in and out. You've got to punch them in, and you've got to punch them out. You've got to punch them in and punch them out. Why? Because I've not yet found a way of being able to download the videos or photos via the USB-C. In my Z7 II, I can plug in a cable. Excuse me, I'll just show you. I can plug in a cable like this into the USB-C and that into my computer, and what I could do is download all the images without removing the cards. So that's great in the Z7 II, and your Z6 II will do the same. So that saves pulling the cards in and out and saves damaging the cards. But in this camera, I haven't worked out a way of doing that, so I don't know if you can do it, or there'll be a firmware upgrade in the future. That'd be nice if they would do that, so we could download them directly. But in case it's always impossible and you can't, I bought a card that was quite robust and strong, so every time I'm pulling it in and pulling it out, I'm not damaging the card. But the tough cards are very robust, like 18 times stronger than a traditional SD card. And because I'm pulling them in and out, I want to make sure that they're strong and safe and I don't damage them. Because if I'm trying to wriggle them out and I snap it or crack it or pull too hard, it could easily damage. These things are almost indestructible. So that's why I've done that. Another feature on the camera that's absolutely essential, apart from a decent memory card and a second battery, which are very important, is this little base. Now you notice I got a little silver base here, and it's a hand grip, because you can see the little hand grip now. The camera doesn't come with that as standard. That's actually an accessory you buy. It's a small rig accessory, and they make them specifically for the FC camera. Now if I just take it off there, you see that's what you're buying. So there's the camera on its own, and as you can see, there is no grip, which makes actually holding the camera very difficult. It sort of just slides out of your hands. There's nothing really to grasp onto too well, and I felt a bit insecure with that. I thought that's going to end up hitting the ground for sure. So by buying this little item here, which is very cheap, I think it was like $50 for me to buy from Small Rig. It's lightweight and real rubberized grip, and it just means you can now add on a grip to your camera and gives you all that comfort in your hands. But the other factor, besides the other advantage of this, yes, you get a grip to hold on to give you some security, but it's also an Arco Swiss mount as well for mounting your camera to tripods, etc. So that's a double whammy, a double bonus you're getting. And the other thing is, of course, it has auxiliary mounts, which are always handy. But this here is a great feature. They give you a fastening screw, but the fastening screw has that little accessory which you can fold away and hold, little arch of steel to screw it up hand tight. And that's actually what I'm going to encourage you to do. Even though there is a screwdriver slot in there, don't do it up tight with the screwdriver. Just put it in using that little arch and just hand tighten it gently. That's all you need to do. And there's a reason for that. And I'll tell you why the reason is. Talking about memory cards before, when you want to get the memory card out of this camera, it's extremely easy to do. You just push and it pops out. Do you see how it pops out? I'll go again, push, pop out. And you see it just extends out a little bit. I hope you can pick that up. Well, when you want to get the card out, it's really easy and gentle to do. See how easy that is? It pops in. There's just a point to this, bear with me. Very easy to get out, because you can grip it quite easily there. You get a good little grip on it, get a good little pinch. No problem at all getting that out. But let me show you, once you put the battery grip on, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more difficult. So this is why I encourage you to put it just gently on. It won't come off. It's very sturdy. Fits in, it's molded into the camera. But now when I want to get the case open, it's a little bit trickier to get the case open, because see the extra cavity hole there now? Because of this extra grip and the base, the Arco Swiss base, it's made the recession deeper. And it's a bit of a cavity in there now to get in. So now when you want to get that chip out, it's actually very hard to grip. It's hard to get your fingers in. You can almost get side to side, but you really can't get in long ways to grip it easily. So can I do it? Yes, I can do it. I just showed you I can. So it's doable, but it's just a bit trickier with that grip on. So this is another reason why I bought the Sony Tough Card, because I might be fiddling around if I get impatient and I don't want to break it, because that's made it now a little bit more difficult to get in and out. The battery is no harder. The battery just falls in and out and it's not an issue at all. But just be aware of the card, that it can be a little harder to get in and out once you have this grip on. So that's why I encourage you to have it on very gently, and that way you can quickly get it off with a few turns of a screw. And when you do need to get the chip out, of course it's a lot more easy now to access, and you can get it out without fighting and struggling, and you're less likely to damage the card. And this is really important. You don't have to spend a whole day taking photos, come home and then break the card trying to get it out because you're impatient. So I really encourage you to buy the grip, because the grip is a fabulous accessory. Really makes a difference to the camera, the enjoyment to use. But just leave it on sufficiently tight, not hard tight, so you can get it off with your thumb. And then you've got the grip, you've got all the benefits of the Arco Swiss mount, but you also have accessibility to all your gear without driving yourself insane. So yes, that grip from Small Rig, 2 thumbs up on that. What a brilliant little invention they came up with. I believe they were actually in league with Nikon coming up with that, because the little what do they call it, vlogging mount that they give you, mount and remote, was also made by Small Rig, I believe. So they've sort of got a partnership going on, and they're working together to make the little ZFC something fantastic for everyone. So I look forward to more accessories coming out later from them. But so far, that's really what I wanted to run you through with the camera. That's 90% of what I've got to show you. Yes, and one other little detail that I almost left out, and I did want to mention to you, because I think it's important that we're well equipped when we understand what we're looking at and doing video. With this camera here, when you're doing your video, and I'll just see if I can get this up and going. Here we go, and video mode. Okay. So I've got this up and going in video mode, and you can see the screen there behind. Now, when I'm looking behind at the screen, I get all the detail. I can see everything, every little aspect. I can see the sound levels, battery levels. Everything is looking great in there. It looks fantastic. But what I noticed is, when you transfer from this perspective, or this perspective, and you all of a sudden go into your vlogging perspective, what happens is you lose a lot of information on the screen. All of a sudden, all the top information goes. All of a sudden, your sound levels go. Now, there are probably several reasons for that, and one, of course, it's very reasonable why that would be happening, is when you open the little pouch there to put in your sound. If you put in your microphone here, it covers that part of the bottom corner of the screen, which means you'll lose a little bit of that information, so your battery level and your sound levels would be blocked anyway. So I can see why they may have reduced the information there, because you could never have seen it. But I did just think that that was a bit odd, that when it's facing this way, you get all the information come up, everything you could possibly want, all the top information and your information down here, sound levels and battery power. But once you turn it around, all of a sudden, bang, half of that information is gone. So just be aware of that when you're vlogging, you won't see necessarily as much information as you do when it's facing the other way around. It's not a tragedy, it's not a deal breaker or anything like that, but I just thought I would point out that I noticed that, and that, you know, if you're keen to think that your camera may have been broken or damaged, or it was just your model or something, no, that is an inherent fault with the camera. If you want to call it a fault, I think it's a design feature, because it was just not necessary. So if you're serious with video, a lot of the time what you're going to be doing is looking at the back of the screen anyway, because you'll be filming something else. But when you're vlogging, you do lose a little bit of info on the screen. Just bear with that. That's just a part of the nature of the beast, if you like. Oh yes, and just before I go, there is one other thing I wanted to mention, and that is with the 40mm lens here, and it is a very useful lens, and I bought it particularly for the portrait option for Tracy when she's using this camera. I will say this though about it, and I had to laugh because I actually heard Richie. Now if you know Richie, he does videos as Nikon ambassador, and he'll does a lot of test chart footage and so on, and he did a preview of this for the pre-production model, and I noticed he didn't put many chart videos up, and there's a very good reason for that. And the reason is that this lens here, this 40 f2, is a great lens for taking portraits, but at f2 it is soft. So just be aware, and that's, I think it's only fair to say this because I had a lot of checking and testing and retesting of photos, that at f2 it is a little soft. Now Richie, I laugh because his terminology for this softness was The lens has character. Okay, that's fair enough. It does. It's a characterful camera, isn't it? It's got charm and retro styling. And a lot of the old retro lenses did have character themselves. They did have a bit of softness when they were wide open. But I will say that this particular one, the 40, does have exactly that. So if you're looking for that feature, if that's something that you like in a lens, to have a bit of a softness, maybe it's very flattering with portraits, particularly of older people, this might be an ideal lens for you. But just be prepared that if you do take photos and you're expecting them to be razor sharp at f2, you might be a little bit disappointed. So the photos look quite good. I mean, it's not like I'm saying they're bad photos, but it's just that I have to be upfront with you and give you an honest appraisal of the lens. And at f2, it's not as sharp as it is at f2.8 or f4. It's noticeably different. With the 28mm, for example, though, the 28mm is absolutely sharp at 2.8. And the zoom is sharp all round, no matter what aperture or extension of zoom you're using. So the lenses are generally quite excellent. And this is an excellent lens. I'm not saying it isn't. But at f2, just be aware it is a bit soft. So I just thought I'd run you through that. So if that's 90% of what I wanted to show you, I hope you've learned something interesting there. I didn't really want to waffle on too much, but because I had that video in the veranda and other photo samples to show, and I knew that was going to take up some time as well. So if there's anything else you want to ask me about this camera, feel free to do so. I've not got really anything more to say as yet other than it is a brilliant unit, and I highly recommend it. You'll really enjoy it and have a lot of fun. So enjoy the retro styling, but enjoy the beautiful video features and photo features of this camera, because you won't be disappointed. I got it. I love it. I look forward to seeing photos that you've taken with it too.